come now. The dark of the moon is the time to begin to plant the seed and let it sink in. Dream the dark night, the black earth, the deep bed. Wait without light, waiting in hope in the dark of the moon. Surrender, surrender, and something you don't know will break open in you. Something you don't know will break open in you. And the dark of the moon is the time to begin to plant the seed and let it sink in. Dream the dark night, the black earth, the deep bed. Wait without light, waiting in hope in the dark of the moon. Surrender, surrender, and come now, O light of love, help me find peace. Come now, light of love, settle in my heart. Come now, Come now, light of love, help me find myself. Come now, light of love, settle in my heart. Come now, come now, oh come now. And something you don't know will break open in you. Good evening, everyone. Many thanks to Lou Beckerman for that beautiful invocation of the light of love into the heart, which is probably one of the most fundamental secrets about hope and health, the title of our program tonight. It's brought to you by the Jankee Foundation for Global Healthcare, and we've just had our AGM actually, celebrating 15 years of the work of the foundation. And we heard about how, alongside supporting a hospital in India, in a very needy area, the foundation has done a lot of work providing educational materials to healthcare professionals and to patients, essentially reconnecting people to that love in the heart that is so healing. So tonight, the program is falling into two parts. The first is, instead of our simple lecture, an annual event, tonight we have a very rich presentation with a panel conversation headed by Arnold Dessa. And I'll just say a few words about Arnold. He asked me not to, but I don't want him to come up only in his own being. Arnold has a background as a family therapist, and he has integrated skills that he developed in that field of family therapy into many years of work helping hospital doctors develop consultation and teaching skills within the NHS. So Arnold is actually, he's a multifaceted person, but that is the central thrust of his work. And he's going to be, I will invite him to come up now to coordinate this discussion in the first part of the program. And that will be followed by another song from Lou, and then some words of wisdom on this topic from Dadi Janki. So now Arnold and his guests, Peter Wells, Myat and Craig Brown. Thank you.
Good evening. And hello, and Om Shanti, and hello to you, Daddy. As Neville said, tonight's panel discussion is about health and hope. And I'll introduce the panel members in a few minutes. I was thinking, when I was thinking about how to open the panel, I was thinking about the word hope itself. And it's one of those nice four-letter words. But it's actually a very complex one. And there's a whirlpool of meaning and thought and ideas around it. I don't know whether you've heard of Lady Julian, a 14th century Christian monk in England. We have in our garden, on the wall of our garden, a terracotta plaque. And it says on it, with immense and certain optimism, all shall be well, and all shall be well, and all manner of things shall be well. She said that these words were spoken to her by God. Now, I mentioned that these words tell of enormous optimism. But there's another side of hope too, and I was thinking about the Olympic Games, and I don't know how many of you watched the Games. Just give me an idea. How many did watch the Games? Okay, a sizable number. And I don't know whether you saw the broadcaster who was standing trackside, and at the end of races, he would interview people. And it was easy enough interviewing those who won the gold medals. But in many other cases, there were meager pickings. For example, Jason, who came 19th in the running backwards, holding a hand over his eye race. And he said, Jason, this was a great race. You bettered your personal timing. This was just wonderful. Do you see yourself going forward to Rio in 4 years? And it was very interesting. Of course, this didn't happen, but it did in many ways. I don't know whether you noticed this broadcaster. He was very, very good, and he made the best out of nothing. And it was a real lesson in the importance of hope in almost every situation. there's another side to hope too, which is very relevant to our discussions here tonight, and it's about where hope is situated in the medical model. When it has to counterbalance a label or a diagnostic-based way of thinking with evidence and clinical experience, how does hope have a chance with something like this? How do you shoehorn into a system that's gradually been depersonalized and increasingly unable to cope with human distress? And that's one of the things we're going to be looking at tonight. I was thinking of a story many years ago that I heard about the wise doctor, and perhaps you've heard the story, who counseled the family of a dying patient when they were in the waiting room and told them to expect the worst. And then he went into the room and was standing bedside with the patient on his own and told the patient to hope for the best. And it's a sweet story. It may be apocryphal, but it's a very, very sweet story, and coming from a wise man. Before I actually get around to these introductions, and I will introduce these good souls to you in a moment, I promise. How many of you, with a show of hands, how many of you think an ant can move a rubber tree? Just stick up your hands. How many can think an ant can move a rubber tree? I just want to get an idea. Stick the hands up high. Don't be shy. Okay, so I see maybe a quarter of the audience here think that an ant can move a rubber tree. I'm just conducting a piece of research, and we'll come back to that. We're very fortunate in having tonight our guests, and I am extremely fortunate because my path has crossed with theirs over the years. And on my left is Peter Wells, and Peter and I worked at the St. Marylebone Church in the early 90s. I worked downstairs in the NHS health practice, and Peter worked upstairs, where you were working as a counselor and a minister.
I was on both, yes.
Yeah. Yes. And now I'm going to have to go to the sheet because you've done a lot of things since. Now, is this correct? You're an Anglican priest who's employed by Brighton and Sussex University Hospital Trust? Yeah?
Correct.
And you're the lead chaplain and bereavement office's manager.
I am.
You believe, it's like a lawyer, you believe that issues of sexuality and spirituality are fundamentally linked in how we live our lives? Yes, I do.
Arnold, I'm just wondering where this is leading to at the moment.
Anyway, ultimately, Peter believes that the greatest taboo subject of all is discussing with people the meaning and purpose of life.
Yes.
Which may very well surprise people, but it is a real taboo question, isn't it?
It is.
Moving on to Myat, who I've known since 1983. That's almost 30 years. We worked in the same clinic together on Baker Street. And La is a practitioner of Chinese medicine, and she also works in the NHS at Imperial College Health Center. She's taught Chinese medicine, but uniquely, she's crossed over, and she also teaches at the London Deanery of Postgraduate Medical Education, and she helps train GPs to become GP trainers. La is a Buddhist. She was born in Burma, and she's had some health issues that have confronted her really with her own ideas about her relationship with health and spirituality. Would that be fair?
Yes, yes.
Okay, is there anything you want to add to that, or
no,
subtract from it?
No, that was quite complete. Thank you.
And now to the person furthest on my left, that's Dr. Craig Brown. Craig was a GP for 30 years, and let me tell you, that's a long time to be a GP. He retired a couple of years ago, and Craig has a very long CV, and I'm going to try and do this from memory. Craig was the past president of the National Federation of Spiritual Healers. He's currently the chair of the British Holistic Medical Association, the BHMA. Craig is also a trustee and a medical what does it say on my badge here?
Scientific and medical advisor.
A scientific, huh?
Medical advisor.
A medical advisor, right. Craig is a scientific and medical advisor to the Jankee Foundation, as indeed am I. I'm not a trustee, but I'm also one of the advisors. More importantly, Craig and I have worked together on something called Values in Healthcare, a spiritual approach. I don't know whether you saw it out there, this big purple book that was talked about. Babna mentioned it in her introduction. Craig has also edited 2 other books that have been written by someone else in this big team that produced Values in Healthcare, Jan Alco, who's in the audience. And welcome to you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Now, Peter, I have a question for you, and I was thinking about it, and you helped me think about it. You work in a large acute hospital.
I do, yes.
He's good. It's going to be so delightful. It's a crazy institution. Large acute hospitals are crazy institutions.
I couldn't
Where do
comment.
you find hope in places like that? And how do you exercise your understanding of hope in the context of your own spiritual life?
The role of being a chaplain is a very peculiar role within the NHS. We do actually do one of the very few jobs that means if I arrive at somebody's bedside, they can tell me to go away without the fear that I'm going to suddenly discharge them, or I'm going to suggest more drugs, or I'm going to do something to them. And they can actually say, I don't want to see you, please go away. So it's a bit of an odd job in that sense. But I think that one of the most remarkable things about this job is the way that patients allow you into their lives at incredibly significant times in their lives. And that is extremely humbling. And I think that the other aspect of the chaplaincy role for me, it's about affirming where people are in their journey of pain and of healthcare. And it's about saying to people, we're not going away, we will actually journey with you. Because for me, one of the things that I've really learned over the years is that when people come into a hospital, a large acute hospital, for a health reason, whether it's acute or even if it's elective and planned, is that people have an awful lot of time to think. Mm-hmm. They have a lot of time, they're sitting there in bed, they're watching all these other people being incredibly busy around them, but they have a lot of time to think. And think. And relatives have a lot of time to think. And it's in those times that a whole number of different issues that people had never thought they would ever have to think about suddenly come up for people. And that's when they want to begin to talk. And I think the hope, I would hope that we offer people, is the fact that people can say actually how painful it is for them being in hospital. And it's very tempting to say, when people say I'm in pain, I feel pain, nothing takes the pain away, the doctors don't help, the drugs don't help, etc. It's very easy for people to say, oh, you'll be all right tomorrow, or you'll be all right when your family comes in, or you'll be all right, And actually sometimes people just want to say, I hurt. And I hurt tonight. And I just want to talk to somebody about how I hurt. And I don't want somebody just to go, oh, don't worry about it. Because actually, I am worried about it. And then I think we're able to give them space just to express it and to say, let's affirm it together.
Do you ever find yourself feeling helpless in the face of that?
Quite some time ago, somebody who I thought was incredibly wise as a Buddhist said that as professionals in healthcare, what you need to do is you need to put your profession behind you and put your personality in front of you. And people will meet you as another person, and then you can bring your professional skills in as and when required. I think that means that you don't feel so helpless by any manner of means at all. Actually, what you're doing is you're meeting another human being, and that's what this job is very much about.
Yes, it is. Peter, thank you for your opening remarks. We'll come back with questions after we hear from the others.
Yep.
Craig, I was doing some arithmetic after I spoke with you, and you told me how many patients you saw a day, and I multiplied, and I multiplied, and I multiplied again. And I came out to the astonishing, mind-boggling fact that you actually saw, when you were working, 5,000 patients a year. You had 5,000 encounters. Multiply that by 30, and you have, of course, 150,000 encounters with illness throughout a professional career. A simple question for me is, how did you manage that? How did you manage to instill your patients with hope, with that avalanche of illness?
Yeah, it's a question that I've thought a lot about over the years, and how can I help patients in their suffering? And how can I not be affected by that? And I've been interested in this question between the physician maintaining their health and helping patients. And the general practitioner's job, yes, we see 5,000 encounters a year, and we do see patients or families, and we know and we've seen them growing up, but they come to us with a broad spectrum of illness, and every encounter has some element of wanting hope, whether it's for a major illness or just reassurance that there's nothing seriously wrong. I just want to briefly take you back to, I've been in practice for 30 years. About 28 years ago, we decided as a practice of 6 doctors to build a new surgery. And with that, we wanted to do something different. And there's a few of us who were interested in holistic medicine, and were interested in integrating complementary medical people with us in our care of our patients. So we had acupuncturists and osteopaths and homeopaths and reflexologists all working in the same building and getting to know each other. But we also had some spiritual healers. And this really fascinated me at the time, was when I learned a little bit about spiritual healing, which was laying on of hands healing, is how does that work and what sort of benefit do patients get from that? And I was able to talk to some of the patients, and yes, they said they felt better from the spiritual healing. So I decided to go and train as a healer and learn about what healing was about. Now, very simply, spiritual healing is, although it's called laying on of hands, it's not actually touching the person at all. It's done usually in a sort of half-hour session where the patient sits in a seat and the healer stands behind them, and they get into an internal space of peace and quiet, a meditative space really, and make a connection to a higher power, whether it's God or some universal power or some universal energy or vibration, and see themselves as channeling that energy to the patient without touching them. And that would go on for half an hour, and then they would stand back and kind of disconnect themselves from that process. Now, the interesting thing for me was, my interesting observation of this was that they used to run a healing clinic in Worthing on a Friday evening, and I used to do an evening surgery. On a Friday evening, because it was the end of the week, and by the end of the evening I was absolutely exhausted having done this surgery, and then I'd drive to Worthing and see 3 or 4 patients and give them healing. At the end of the healing, I felt very much better. And that was a challenge to me. What was I doing differently? And so I asked the healer that was working at our surgery to come and sit in some of my surgeries, and we'd try and unravel what was happening. And he actually sat in every Wednesday surgery for 2 years. And we used to talk, every patient that came in, we would talk about what was it that was really going on at a deeper level. Was it the patient that was angry, or were they anxious? Were they lonely, or were they feeling helpless? And what we decided to do, or what I decided to do with the healer, was during that consultation, I would make that connection to the higher power and channel the appropriate, what we would call energy or vibration, to the patient. So if the perception was that they were feeling hopeless, we would try and engender a feeling of hope in ourselves and see that as a channel to the patient, just briefly. And to me, this was actually, in a way, giving a spiritual treatment to the patient. And it was then the challenge was integrating that into my practice. So my 10-minute appointment, when I had to see the patient, I would take the history, I'd listen to them, I'd enter their notes, I'd look at their management, I'd give them a prescription, and then at some point, just try and tune in, step back, try and tune into what was happening, and channel that feeling of love or hope to them. And the interesting thing is, it's not about, the intention behind that is to bring benefit to the patient, not to cure them of an illness or of them problems, but just to bring general benefit. Two things is that patients, I think, often reported feeling a lot better, but also I felt better. I felt I was doing something, that the feeling wasn't coming from me. I wasn't giving out the energy. I wasn't losing energy. It was something coming from a source that was much bigger than me that came through me for the patient. So when you ask the question, how does a practitioner give hope? One of the issues that we have with practitioners is that they do lose energy when they're faced with suffering. And this was a way I found that was helpful for me to deal with others' suffering and to help me sustain my energy and enthusiasm for the work that I do.
Thanks, Greg. I'll come back with questions to you as well. La, how do you describe hope? What's hope to you?
Well, that's an interesting question that I posed myself when I was asked to be part of the panel. And surprisingly, I found it really challenging because coming from a Buddhist background, there is the idea of hope as being the opposite side of the same coin to fear, hope and fear, as two qualities or activities that take you away from the present moment. So you're either aspiring towards something or running away from something. So it takes you away from the completeness of the present. And yet I knew that there was a really positive aspect to hope. And I couldn't identify it, and it really frustrated me. And so I sat with it for about 2 weeks, and then I had a really powerful experience. I was driving up the M40 towards Oxford, and it was just about 10 days ago when the weather was changing dramatically from being really wet and cloudy and raining to being really bright and sunny. And I seemed to reach the top of somewhere on the M40 where it just looked like the road met the sky, and it just seemed like I was driving towards the horizon. And amongst all the white puffy clouds that there were against this bright blue sky, one big nasty black cloud was left sort of sitting there. And because of the weather conditions, this bright sunlight touched it, and there was this white light that came, and suddenly I understood, of course, that is hope. And I was so delighted. And I think because that experience meant so much to me, I've sort of used that metaphor to ask myself questions about where is hope in my life, where is hope in my patients' lives, and the metaphor of the sunlight keeps coming through, and that's been really helpful for me. So yeah, that's what hope means, and actually it doesn't seem to sit against or opposite the Buddhist idea of hope at all, because within that image was that the sun was ever present anyway behind the clouds. You didn't have to look for it, it was already there. It was just a matter of knowing. So it seemed in the present anyway.
Thank you for that. A question that comes up for me, just from hearing what the three of you have been saying, is one of difference or sameness. I'm not sure what it is. But in one sense, hope is very much allied to future thinking. It's being optimistic. It's being a reflection, a desire for something, as you said. So a question that I've always had about it is, to what extent do we have to be cautious about it being falsely optimistic? Can we instill hope ethically? Can we do it with conscience? Of course we do it with good intention, but do we also have to look at that intention? Is it allied to things like our desire, our fear? It's actually a simple question, but I was rather wordy about it. I hope you got the essence of it.
I think the issue for me is, what are you hoping for? If, for instance, patients will say to me, why has God done this to me? Do you believe in miracles? I want to pray that I'm going to walk out of here. And clearly I do believe in miracles, but I'm also, I hope, realistic as well, and recognize that sadly there will be, for some people, they won't walk out of here. And I think the issue is, what hope are you hoping for? And I think the best hope that I can provide people with is a sense of they're not going through this on their own, that they are actually sharing their illness or their pain, with somebody else. And once you've drawn alongside somebody, is to then talk to them about, and what are you hoping for? And I think for me there's a very large, it won't surprise you, there's a very large vocational element to the job that I do, in that this isn't my work in many ways. This is a work that I believe I've been called to do, and a ministry that I've been called to exercise. So I think it is very much about establishing, what are you hoping for?
Yeah. There's a colleague of mine who's written a book on being with older people, Eleanor Anderson, and she adds to that question. When she's working with people who seem not to have any hope, she would ask them to identify a time in their life when there was hope. Mm. When was the last time you had hope about something? And ask them to identify it. So it's a bit related to that. I wonder whether either of you would like to add to that, because I have a supplementary question that I'd like to add, but I can wait if you wish to address that question.
I think for me, I go back to that metaphor because it was so powerful. And when I thought about when I might be engendering hope, perhaps, in someone, is actually to identify where the sunlight is in them, so that there's always things to fix, as it were, or improve, in healthcare when somebody is ill. But I found that, and I wouldn't have been able to work this out without the metaphor, I found that when I somehow identified things that they were already strong in, a light might come in their eyes, or something would light up, and one hopes that gives enough energy for them to carry on. So it's it's a very simplistic answer, but that's, and I thought really from then that perhaps I could try and identify where people's lights are in them and actually point it out so that they recognize something in themselves that's strong.
Yes.
I mean, just picking up on Peter's point again, in terms of, I think the most important thing in any consultation, doctor, patient, chaplain, patient, or even personal relationships, is listening attentively to someone's story. And that itself is healing, is just allowing people the space to tell you, or tell someone how they feel, and you listen attentively to them. And particularly with two kind of supplementary questions I might add to that would be, where do you find support? And that finding support can be with family or with friends or through the faith, or just somewhere, something that they find support. And that in itself is hopeful, that they, particularly when people have been diagnosed with serious illness, feel there is someone alongside them, whether it's a chaplain or there is a doctor or there's a nurse they know or there's a family member they can feel they can trust and confide in. I think that is immensely important. And one final thing, something I learned from actually the Brahma Kumaris when they were doing a vision of a better world. The question was, how would you like things to be? And this was done in, I think, 1988 in an international global scale. But I brought that back into my practice. I did some work locally with groups asking on that question and getting them to draw pictures. But I brought it back into my practice, and just after someone's told the story, especially with a depressive person, it's just to ask them that question, how would you like things to be? And, you know, it is a kind of open question. It's not looking for an answer as such. It's just leaving them with that question so that they, even when they're telling the story, it may be a story of helplessness and hopelessness and how terrible they are, but just to end on that uplifting note of, well, how would you like, and they shift. And actually, I shift too. You know, having heard all this, it makes me think, okay, there are possibilities.
I was wondering to what extent hope needs the imagination. In fact, hope depends on imagination, that ability to imagine that which is not. And if you're dealing with people who are ill or in pain, there may be a failure of the imagination to think of that which is not in the moment. How do you manage that? How do you manage people who cannot move beyond the present moment, who lack the imagination to think of anything being different?
Can I just briefly say something that, to go back to that point, is me asking the questions makes the space for them to imagine it. So that it's open. They might not be able to imagine it, but I can begin to imagine it and create that vibration. And even sometimes you don't even have to verbalize a question. It's actually just a thought can be powerful enough.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that this patient can find some way of through this without it's that feeling rather than. Sometimes it's not appropriate. Sometimes they're unconscious. It's not appropriate to ask it. Sorry.
I think sometimes there will be people who say, I just can't see anything any better than what I've got now. And again, I think it's important to say, I really hear that. I really hear that that is where you are now. And actually, let's look at the quality of life. I mean, it sounds so trite to say it sitting here, which is quite difficult, but is to say, and is that the quality of life you actually want? Is that the quality of life you want? And for some people, they will say, yes, I don't want to move. And I can't make them move, but I can say to them, I'm around if you want to talk. And by not shutting the door, which I think some people are so used to people shutting the door on them. I think our society is full of people who feel that they've had a door slammed in their face for one reason or another, and that there's no one they can go and talk to. And so I think by saying, still here, not going to go away, available if you want to talk, I hear what you're saying.
You don't have to answer that if you don't want to. I'm not going through the whole stream with everyone
I just
having
wanted
to answer.
I was thinking about my experience of hope when I was very ill, as you know, a few years ago, and I think for me, truth, being told the truth, and also being given meaning, gave me hope, actually, that somehow that my illness could carry meaning, gave me hope. I don't know if that makes sense, but that I was learning something. I was learning something about life. I was learning perhaps a deeper understanding of spirituality or life. I don't know, but all of that gave me energy and took me out of the dark cloud, as it were.
Well, that's interesting, because self-awareness is very important, and I think hidden in the question that I asked at the beginning was whether hope in some of its manifestations can actually prevent self-awareness. And that may be something you wish to address or not. You're smiling, Peter.
I think I think false hope, certainly, whether you call it denial, I actually think that sometimes in order to cope with life, I think we search and seek for meaning. And yes, this brings me to my point. I think so often people think that death is the great taboo subject. Actually, I really don't think it is. I think discussing with people about the real meaning and purpose of their lives is far more of a taboo when we think, or a lot of people might think, well, no, I've got my family, I've got my job, that gives my life meaning, doesn't it? Until something goes wrong. And then so much can get put into question. So I think that imagining that, I've got a good job or I've got a good this is false hope, and actually isn't really about what is the meaning and purpose of your life. So I think false hope will lead people to feel or not understand or hide the real truth.
Yeah. I wonder whether in the conversation we've been having so far, anything has come up for any of you about what anyone else has said and that you might like to ask them. A question.
I think I would like to ask La to say a little more about the two sides. I mean, I completely agree, the two sides of hope and fear. I think I really do think that that's a very important image to hold on to. Could you say a little more about your understanding of that and how these two are on the opposite side to each other? Is that fair? Sorry. It might not
Sounds
be fair.
fair to me. It's fair to you.
It's really a Buddhist idea of hope and fear, which is that rejecting or aspiring are both movements that take you away from the contentment of the present moment. And so, in a way, they're not seen as spiritual ideals, I suppose. But so that was my dilemma with the word. But actually, in my search, after I was asked to be part of the discussion, I got a different sense of hope, which wasn't either one or the other. It seemed something that was embedded in the present somehow. And I don't know whether that's how other people understand it, but that's how I've come to understand it.
I think that's incredibly helpful, and I think, for me as a Christian, it very much links in with the gospel message of, why worry about tomorrow? Today has enough worries of its own. You don't have to, if we're not careful, we'll just fixate on the future, or we'll ruminate about the past, and we won't realise what's going on here and now. So actually, hope could be very much a false. It depends on your interpretation.
So it's not as simple as, like when you were asked to appear on a panel talking about hope and health, it's not as simple as the word might first appear.
No.
I'm very much aware that time is running away with us, and I had hoped to ask for some questions from the audience, but unfortunately there isn't enough time to do that. I was just wondering now about that ant and the rubber tree, and I wonder whether we could have another little vote to see whether people have changed their minds about ants and rubber trees. How many now think that an ant might be able to move a rubber tree? Oh, well, goodness me, we're up to at least half. How does the ant do it? Anyone have an idea how the ant does it? He does it with high apple pie and the sky hopes. Yes, Frank Sinatra sang all about that. I want to thank the panelists. They were asked to do this, knowing that there wasn't much time to explore things in great depth. But I hope that from each of them, you've learned about different perspectives, clinical perspectives, also spiritual ones. I was reminded, as I was listening to Peter Law and Craig speak, about a patient I saw this morning who is the most pessimistic person I have ever seen. And he thought that plague was going to descend on London and pestilence because of the Olympics. And that he constantly catastrophizes his minor illnesses. And I play with him. I actually enjoy seeing him because he's quite a challenge to me, quite a challenge to my own sense of my own optimism and my own hope. And I asked him, do you think optimism has a bright future? And his reply was, I hope so. So thank you very much for listening.
Gentle warrior, with your heart like gold and rainbow in your eyes, brave companion, do you see a world shining in the skies, with your body dancing like an arrow, spreading joy beneath your feet, and your hands that wave like tall grass in the wind as you speak with the shyness of a small child and the wisdom of a sage. I tell you now, there is no reason to be afraid. Brother warrior, there are none of us who walk this path alone. Spirit healer, it's the only life that we have ever known. I see your smile in the sunlight. I hear your songs in the rain, and I hold you here inside me. Feel your love and know your pain at this time when the earth is waking to the dawn of another age. I tell you now, there is no reason to be afraid. That all living things can share, and those who care are with us everywhere. We are crying for a vision that all living things can share, and those who care are with us everywhere. I tell you now, I tell you now, there is no reason to be afraid. I tell you now, I tell you now, there is no reason to be afraid.
And thanks so much. And also to Arnold and our panel for those rich insights. It was lovely, wasn't it? Very, very varied and interesting input. And now it's my pleasure to say some words of introduction to Dadi Janki. Probably many of you know about Dadi's extraordinary life. She was 19 when she came across Brahma Baba, who she had known as a child. When she was a child, she had known him. But when she was 19 and he had been going through some spiritual visionary experiences, she felt as if she had found that vision that Lou's song was talking about, that can bring hope for the future, and that it was something that she wanted to take into herself and give to the world. And she became a founding member of the spiritual university. They had a 14-year period where they were like a closed order, just working internally to develop this vision. And then it started to spread out across the world. And Daddy came out of India in the early 70s and gave several decades of her life to continuing this internal practice and sharing that feeling with others, and been such huge consequences of those actions by her. So Dadi will be sharing her insights on this subject of hope and health, which she has a particular interest in the health arena because of very deep insights obtained from her own experiences. She's come close to death a few times, had a lot of illness in her life, and somehow has such mastery over the matter of her 96-year-old body that even now, at this advanced stage of life, she's still serving tremendously, intensely in many parts of the world. And Sister Jankee, who will accompany Dadi, as her translator, has known Dadi for very many years. They worked hand and glove together for the many decades that Dadi lived in London. And Sister Jankee is now the European Director of the Brahma Kumaris. So I would like to invite them both to come up to the stage now.
ओम शांति हम 3 बारी ओम शांति बोलेंगे
Dadi will say
Please,
Om
आप
Shanti
respond
3
करना।
times. Dadi would like you to respond with
ओम
Om Shanti.
शांति रिस्पॉन्ड पूरा नहीं मिला
It wasn't
बहन भाई
enough of a
ओम
response.
शांति
Om Shanti.
अभी फिर से एक बारी बोलो
Once more.
बस होप एंड हेल्थ का यही बस है
This is the lesson of hope and
सामने देख
health.
रहे हैं ना होप एंड हेल्थ जानकी फाउंडेशन का मतलब ये है
Hope and health and Jankee Foundation. The meaning of this is Om Shanti.
ये डॉक्टर जानता है वो भी जानता है
The doctors here know
होप
me
सीटल
well.
एंड जानकी फाउंडेशन
Jankee Foundation brings hope, right?
अभी बोलो ओम शांति
So Om Shanti.
अच्छा ओके फर्स्ट टाइम यहाँ मुझे कौन देख रहे हैं आप तो बताओ
Who's meeting Dadi for the
फर्स्ट टाइम
first
कौन
time?
देख रहे हैं
Dadi's interested to know who's seeing her for the first time.
अच्छा सब बहुत करके सब
So in,
पहचानने वाले हैं
in
तो
fact-
जानकी फाउंडेशन को जानते हैं
the majority
ओम
know
शांति को
Dadi.
जानते हैं
So they know of the Jankee Foundation, they know of Om Shanti.
बड़ा अच्छा वार्तालाप सुन रही थी
I was hearing the dialogue, it was very interesting.
परंतु मैं भी क्या सुनाऊं
So what shall I tell you?
होप जो है ना आजकल छोटे बड़े बाल बूढ़े जल्दी उम्मीद हार देते हैं
Nowadays, young and old, children and adults lose hope very quickly.
उसके कारण मैं बताती हूँ
I'd like to explain the reasons for this.
होप को छोड़ देना या निराश हो जाना
To let go of hope and become hopeless.
3 बातें हैं जो मैं समझती हूँ आप भी विचार करना
There are 3 main factors that I can see, and you can reflect on
धीरज,
it also.
संतुष्ट रहना और सहनशीलता 3 गुणों की कमी है शक्ति की कमी है
People lack patience, contentment, and tolerance.
बीमारी छोटी होंगी रूप बड़ा दे देंगे.
It might be a minor illness, but it takes on a big form.
धीरज नहीं है.
There's no patience.
मुझे 2-3 दिन पहले मैंने देखा ये बहन भी हाथ से करती है. तुम ये बोलते हाथ से क्यों करती हो?
A few days ago, someone said to me, "Why do you move your hand in this way?" My sister was also doing the same.
मैंने कहा मेरा हाथ जो है ना धीरज वाला है. ऐसे ऐसे नहीं है.
I said, my hand is a reflection of patience, not of impatience.
सहन शक्ति है.
There's tolerance power.
संतुष्ट भी है.
I'm content.
तो कभी उम्मीद नहीं हारी है सारी लाइफ में.
Throughout my life, I've never lost hope.
अभी सुनते मुझे लगा हम सारा को भी थैंक्स दे रही थी, अपने डॉक्टर को भी थैंक्स दे रही थी. ये सब ट्रस्टी जो बने हैं जानकी फाउंडेशन, बस जानकी फाउंडेशन ने होप के आधार से आज यहाँ सभा में बैठे हो.
In my heart, I was giving thanks to Sarah, Dr. Brown, and others here in this gathering who've been responsible to help with Jankee Foundation, because Jankee Foundation started with hope and it continues with that.
3 बातें ये जो सुनाई ना, सहन शक्ति है, संतुष्ट रहना है, धीरज है ना, तो अच्छा हो जाएगा. धीरे धरो, थोड़ा सहन करना कोई बड़ी बात नहीं है, कोई बड़ी बात नहीं है.
We need all 3 of these things. We need to be content. We need to have a little bit of tolerance power. It's okay. It'll be all right. It'll be okay. And some patience. Don't worry. It'll work out fine. And so it's important to have all these 3, and then there is hope.
डॉक्टर चीटी का मिसाल दे रहा था पार के लिए. मैंने अभी भी कुछ दिन पहले चीटी पार को देख डरती नहीं है, उपवास करके चली जाएंगी.
Arnold was talking about the ant and the rubber tree, and a little while ago I was reading about an ant in a mountain. When an ant sees a mountain, it's not scared, but it'll find a way around it.
है चीटी,
A tiny ant,
छोटी सी,
tiny,
परंतु डरती नहीं है.
not scared.
हाथी के भी कान में जाती है ना, हाथी बेहोश हो जाता है.
They say that when an ant enters the ear of an elephant, the elephant
मनुष्य के भी
falls
कान
down
में कोई बात आती है
unconscious.
ना, बेहोश हो जाते हैं.
And the same thing happens to humans. A person hears something, an ant goes into their ear,
छोटी सी बात है,
a tiny little thing that they don't like,
बात
and it
छोटी है,
makes them unconscious.
पर कान में जो गई
It's a tiny situation, but it entered their ear.
बीमारी का कारण वो है.
That can be the cause of illness.
बड़ी बात को छोटा कर देना,
It's important to minimize things,
छोटी बात को बड़ा न करना,
not to magnify things.
ये अक्ल का काम है,
This takes
मना
wisdom.
समझ का काम है.
One needs to understand.
जो नेविल भाई हमारा परिचय दे रहा था,
Brother Neville was introducing me
ब्रह्मा कुमारी लाइफ का.
about my life as a Brahma Kumari.
होप है तो हिम्मत है.
Because there's been hope, there's been courage.
हेल्थ कैसी भी है, परंतु हिम्मत बहुत है.
Whatever the condition of my health has been, there's been courage.
हिम्मत से फिर 3 बातें हैं.
And courage is connected with 3 other things.
हिम्मत, विश्वास, सच्चाई.
In fact, it's courage, trust, and honesty.
सारे पहले हम पाकिस्तान में थे, 13-14 साल. वहाँ जो त्याग यानी बुराइयों का त्याग, इच्छाओं का त्याग, ममता का त्याग, बुराई, इच्छा, ममता.
For the first period of the organization, we were in Pakistan, and it was a time of renunciation. Renunciation of weaknesses, renunciation of desires, renunciation of attachments.
13-14 साल में मैं पाकिस्तान में नर्स रही.
And for a period, for the most of that time, out of that 14-year period,
हम 300
I
बहन भाई
was
थे.
a nurse for the
भाई थोड़े
community.
थे.
It was 300 of us.
कभी डॉक्टर नहीं बुला सकते थे.
Mostly it was women. We had a few brothers, and we never called a doctor.
कॉलेरा भी कोई पेशेंट को हो गई, 2-4 को हो गई.
A few people had cholera at one point.
परंतु होप और हेल्थ पर रही हूँ.
But there was always hope, and health returned.
हमारा बाबा सिखाता था. एक बारी क्या था, कोई को पेट में बहुत दर्द था.
Baba, the founder, would teach me many things.
इतना दर्द था जो, तो मैंने बाबा को बोला, बाबा इसको दर्द बहुत है.
And this person had very bad stomach pain, and I
तो
went to
मेरी-
Baba and I told him she's got very
मेरी
bad
शक्ल भी
stomach
ऐसी
pain,
हुई थोड़ी. बाबा इसको दर्द बहुत.
and my face was showing that pain myself.
तो बाबा ने क्या किया, बाबा उसके पास आया पेशेंट की शक्ल जैसे उसको दर्द है नहीं.
And Baba went to that patient to meet her, and the face sparkled as if there was no pain at all.
जैसे मैंने झूठ बोला.
It was as if I had lied.
मैंने 10 मिनट पहले देखा था, पथक रही थी.
10 minutes ago, I had seen that she was struggling with that pain.
बाबा के सामने आने से
And as soon as Baba came in front of her,
वो ऐसे, बच्ची पेट में दर्द है इसको.
and she was fine,
इसको थोड़ी है.
and Baba said, well, the stomach has pain.
तब से
She
लेकर के
doesn't.
मेरे शरीर में कुछ होगा तो भी शक्ल पर नहीं आएगा.
And from that time on, I learned the lesson. The body has pain. I don't, and so nothing
कभी
reflects
आता
on
है
my
दादा
face.
शक्ल पर, कुछ भी होगा शक्ल पर नहीं आएगा.
Whatever is going
और
on,
किसको होगा तो शक्ल पर नहीं आएगा.
it doesn't reflect on my face. And if I'm seeing somebody else in
ठीक
trouble,
हो जाएगा.
again, I know it'll work out fine, and so it
ठीक
doesn't
हो
show
जाएगा.
on the face.
बाबा इतना सिखाता था, छोटा सा शीशे का गिलास लेके दिया, बड़ा गिलास जूस का नहीं देना, इतना देना.
Baba would say, give them a little glass of juice, not a
बड़े
big
प्यार
one,
से देना.
but give it with a lot of love.
बड़े प्यार से सेवा करना.
Serve with a lot of love.
मुझे पता नहीं था कोलन वाटर क्या होता है.
I didn't know about eau de cologne,
बाबा ने मंगा के दिया.
and Baba
किसको
got it.
बुखार था,
Somebody had fever,
104 बुखार था.
104 fever,
बच्ची कोलन वाटर थोड़ा यहाँ लगा तो उसको
and Baba said, use a eau de cologne on their forehead,
आधा घंटा में बुखार उतर गया.
and in half an hour the fever was gone.
कोई कहेगा सिर में बहुत दर्द है.
Someone will say, I've got a very bad headache.
बाबा कहेगा सोने नहीं दो उसको.
Baba would say, don't let them try and sleep.
दर्द पर है थोड़ा वेस्ट थॉट्स से
Baba would say, one of the reasons for headache is waste
उसको
thoughts.
बिलाओ, बिजी करो.
Entertain them, keep them
सोने नहीं
occupied.
दो.
They shouldn't
के-
try and sleep.
सेवा में बिजी कर देते थे.
Take them with you and try
तो
and do
अभी जो
some
आज आपको
service.
मिलेगा लीफलेट्स, पॉजिटिव थॉट बीमारी का बड़ा भारी दवाई है.
You'll receive a leaflet at the end and you'll read about it, but positive thoughts are a
Oh.
great medicine for
होप
good health.
कभी होपलेस नहीं होना.
And so never let yourself become hopeless.
जो थोड़ा होपलेस होता है वो हैप्पी कभी नहीं रहेगा.
If I feel hopeless, how can I be happy?
जो एवर हैप्पी रहता है वो उसमें होप बहुत है.
If I stay ever happy, there'll always be hope.
उसमें हिम्मत विश्वास,
courage,
सच्चाई
trust, honesty.
कभी नाउमीद नहीं कर सकते.
If I have these qualities, I'll never lose hope.
मैंने साखी होकर के, क्यों भगवान मेरा साथी है.
I keep God as my companion
मैं
so
जयंती बहन को भी
that
कहा,
I can be an
न
observer.
कब स्थिर में कैसी भी आत्मा है, कैसा भी उसका स्वभाव है, न मैंने कभी अपन में उम्मीद छोड़ी है, न किसी में उम्मीद छोड़ी है. बदल जाएगा.
I've never lost hope for myself, but also I've never lost hope for another human being. No matter what they may be like, no matter what weaknesses are visible, but no, there's always a possibility they're going to
जो आपने भी
change.
बोला, प्रेजेंट में प्रेजेंट रहें.
At the present, be present.
सबसे बड़ी दवाई है. नाउमीद क्यों होते, प्रेजेंट में प्रेजेंट नहीं रहते हैं.
Another cause for loss of hope is that we don't know how to be present in the present.
पास्ट के बात के दिल में रख करके प्रेजेंट में पास्ट या फ्यूचर क्या होगा उसका फिक्र.
We keep the stories of the past and we have worries about the future, and so we don't stay
ये
in the
नाउमीद
present,
पैदा करते हैं.
and that causes loss of hope.
अपना पास्ट का कोई एक्सपीरियंस या और किसी का एक्सपीरियंस लेकर के प्रेजेंट को, प्रेजेंट में हमको सदा प्रेजेंट रहना चाहिए. अच्छा समय सफला करना चाहिए.
I keep the stories of my own past or the stories of the past of others in my
आज
heart,
का जो आपका ये
and
समय
I
है,
don't stay in the present, and so I don't use the present moment in a worthwhile way.
जो 2 घंटा दिया,
You've given 2 hours for this
कोई
program
6:30 आया,
tonight.
कोई क्या, जो 1-2 घंटा दिया, कितना सफल हुआ.
That time has been well spent, worthwhile.
कितनी समझाई, जागृति आई.
There's an understanding, an awakening.
अभी तो सबकी हेल्थ अच्छी है.
Today I'm seeing everyone with good health,
होप और हेल्थ कभी भूलेंगे नहीं.
and so always remember hope and health.
हैप्पीनेस साथ में है.
Then happiness is there too.
और हमेशा मैं कहती हूँ, होप, हैप्पीनेस दोनों हेल्थ को चाहिए.
Health needs hope and happiness.
खुशी जैसी खुराक नहीं,
They say that there's nothing as
चिंता
nourishing
जैसा मर्ज नहीं.
as happiness, and there's nothing as
कभी भी भूल से
painful as
कोई, ये बड़ी
worry.
भूल है चिंता करना.
It's a great mistake to worry.
दूसरा नाउमीद वो होता है जो व्यर्थ सोचता है.
When there's many waste thoughts, that causes hopelessness.
उम्मीदवार सदा ही अच्छा सोचता है.
The one who has hope is the one who
सदा अच्छा
thinks good, always good thoughts.
ये डॉक्टर सर्जन भी अच्छा भावना से सेवा करते हैं, तब तो सफलता मिलती है.
When doctors work with good feelings and hope, then there's success.
मैं कोई सर्जन डॉक्टर नहीं हूँ,
I'm not a doctor or a surgeon,
परंतु हिम्मत, विश्वास, सच्चाई से
but with courage, with trust, with honesty,
हेल्थ, इसकी आधार से होप,
there's health and hope
हैप्पीनेस है.
and happiness.
पर उनके बीच में है हार्मनी.
And within all of this is also harmony,
मिलकर के
to be able
ये
to
सब
live
मिलकर के
together
सेवा
with
करना.
others, to serve together with others.
आज सब नीचे एजीएम में बैठी थी,
I was listening
देखा
to
इतनी
the
सब सेवा में आप साथ दे रहे हैं.
I was listening to the AGM of the Jankee Foundation and hearing how so many have worked together and
तो
supported all
हार्मनी
this.
से हेल्प भी है, हेल्प है,
So when there's harmony, there's help.
मददगार बहुत है.
Many become helpers.
तो होप न होना पॉसिबल ही नहीं है.
Then it's not possible to not have hope.
तो आज जो अभी भाइयों ने, इन चारों ने जो बोला, अभी जो मेरे को अंदर से आप सारी सभा को देख जो अंदर आ रहा है, ठीक है, मंजूर है?
We heard from the panel, and now I've been sharing a few thoughts. Do all of you agree with
हाथ
these
उठाओ।
things? Who agrees with all this?
समझ में आ रहा है ना?
You understand all
Easy है
this?
ना?
It's easy, isn't it?
ये भी अच्छा शब्द बोला, मैं सदा अवेलेबल हूँ, फ्लेक्सिबल हूँ।
I make sure I'm always available, I'm always flexible.
इंग्लिश शब्द जानती नहीं हूँ, पर सदा ही मैं कोई भी सेवा हो ना, तो मैं अवेलेबल हूँ।
I don't speak English, but I'm available for any service.
अगर डॉक्टर भी पेशेंट के आगे खुशी से हाजिर होता है,
A doctor makes himself available to patients happily.
पेशेंट की उसमें बीमारी चली जाती है।
And if the patient sees that, half the illness goes away.
डॉक्टर का बिजी दिखाई पड़े,
If the doctor appears too busy,
तो पेशेंट बेचारा कहेंगे बेचारा बेचारा हो जाएगा।
then the poor patient won't feel any comfort.
तो हम कभी पेशेंट नहीं है, पर पेशेंस बहुत है मेरे पास।
I'm not a patient at the moment, but I have a lot of patience.
समझा? पेशेंट नहीं हूँ,
I'm not a patient,
तब भी धीरज बहुत है।
but I have a lot of patience.
तो आप अभी आपको उम्मीद है, हिम्मत, होप, हेल्दी बनाने के लिए 3 गोली रोज खा लेना।
In order to have hope and
3
to
गोली
be healthy,
गोली खानी पड़ती
take
है।
3 tablets every day. Yes, it's important to take some tablets.
कौन सी?
Which ones?
धीरज, शांति, प्रेम, पेशेंस, पीस एंड लव।
These are the tablets.
ठीक है?
Is that right?
मंजूर है 3 गोली सुबह को खा लो।
Will you agree to take these 3 tablets every day in the morning?
सभी एवर हेल्दी होंगे।
Then everyone will be very healthy, ever
रात
healthy.
तक दिन भर में भाई कैसे चारा, हाँ पेशेंस ने, पीस ने, लव ने, तीनों ने अच्छा काम किया।
And then whatever happens through the day, you'll be able to feel how patience, peace and love were able to deal with everything.
अभी टाइम तो हो गया है, एक बात सुनाती हूँ। एक बार लंदन में बहुत हॉस्पिटल्स में देखा है, पेशेंट होकर भी देखा है, तो नर्सेस को पेशेंट्स को पूछने के लिए भी देखा है।
I visited many hospitals in London, sometimes as a patient and sometimes as a visitor.
कईयों को पूछने भी जाना होता है।
Very often I go to see patients.
कई मुझे पूछने भी आते हैं।
Sometimes I'm a patient,
सेवा हो
others
जाती
come
है।
to see me, and that also is service.
एक बार गई थी दिखाने के लिए, बहन दूसरी मेरे साथ थी, का पेशेंट कौन है, वो है या ये है।
I'd gone to a hospital and I was with another sister, and the doctor asked, "Who's the patient?"
ये सब क्यों सुना रही हूँ?
Why am I telling you this?
उम्मीदों का सितारा जो बनता है वो सफलता का सितारा।
The one who is a star of hope can become the star of success
वो चमकता हुआ सितारा,
and be a sparkling star.
स्टार ऑफ होप, स्टार ऑफ सक्सेस, फिर तो चमक रहा है।
The star of hope becomes a
अभी ताली
star
बजाओ
of
भले।
success and can be a sparkling star.
चमकते हुए स्टार।
So you're the sparkling stars.
Okay.
Okay?
अच्छा, जिनके भी साइलेंस में बैठेंगे ना,
Let's have a few minutes of reflection and silence.
ठीक है?
Sitting quietly, I look within, and within the inner being, the being of light, I see the flame of hope. All the things that I've heard have strengthened this flame. And so the flame of hope shines powerfully, so brightly, that it's able to finish the darkness of fears, questions, and doubts. The light of this flame shows me the path ahead, and I know that there will be help. The light of hope reminds me that the one above is waiting to give me that help. I nurture this flame with patience, with peace, with love. And the light of this flame is able to show me that the future will be one of light, a future of happiness, of health. I strengthen the power of this flame by reminding myself to maintain patience, contentment, and tolerance. And with the power of this light, I know I can be together with others and stay in harmony and experience their help. And together, things can be better. I keep this flame burning brightly in my heart. Om Shanti.